This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What's good, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind both the good and the bad of the Buffalo Bills, powered by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. I am one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Erik Turner. And Erik, we got some good.
Yes, I'm good.
Survive in advance. The Buffalo Bills, a win is a win is a win. They get past the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional round to face a team in the AFC Championship that they've never faced before and that fans don't really care about, the Kansas City Chiefs. We've never seen the Bills play the Chiefs ever in the playoffs, so that'll be exciting to kind of look forward to this weekend and next week. But as we do here, we like to put a bow on the previous week's action, and we had a very good game, highly contested. Bills-Ravens. We'll be breaking down the defensive side, the offensive side. Really fun game, maybe a little too close for comfort at the end, but some nice adjustment pieces from the team, some nice tweaks going into the game, some matchup pieces that we talked about last week on social in the episode kind of came to fruition and did some things, and the Bills came out victorious.
Yeah, obviously big dubs, right? And yes, it was by the skin of their teeth, but I will say I do, and you'll see some of the film tonight from both sides of the ball. I did like what their game plan and strategy was against this team, but boy, am I happy that they got through that. You know, it was very close, but we all know that the matchup between, the Bills and Ravens is a tough one, and it's not usually in favor of the Bills, as we saw in the first matchup, but it was cool to see some of the adjustments that, the Bills came out with in this matchup at home. And we're going to break down a bunch of those tonight. Offensively, love the game plan, and defensively, same thing. Aggressive. They kind of flipped the script against the normal philosophy when it comes to that defense, and especially when you compare it in relative to, prior years. So it was awesome to see the game plans kind of unfold. I know it ended very close, but I'll tell you what, it was a fun game to watch, and I'm excited to move on eventually to the AFC Championship.
As soon as the game started, Baltimore gets the ball, and the Bills came out 5 down on the defensive line with Dorian on the edge, just like we talked about and foresaw for weeks. I was like, here we go. Thank you so much. Yeah.
2 run stops right off the bat.
Right.
It was money.
Setting the tone, similar to, again, like, I'm not trying to pat us on the back, but like we talked about, the Detroit game plan, come out, attack the run. And yeah, it was nice. And it felt very, I hate saying this because neither of us are like vibes people or, kind of how, but it felt like a good playoff game plan from the Bills. Offensively, mashing your opponent. The run was very successful for the Bills in this game.
Way more successful than we had predicted or thought about, honestly.
Yes, crazy successful. I'm sure we'll speak to some of those stats as we go forward and we highlight the offense in the film in this episode. But yeah, successful on the ground, the offensive line looking good, and then tying some aspects to the pass game, some nice layering from Joe Brady. But that physicality on offense, being willing and able to grind Baltimore's defense down and go through them over and over. And then on the other side, taking it to him right off the bat. And you could tell those first couple of run stops defensively, Daquan and Rousseau and Epinesa, like those guys, and Ed Oliver, like the D-line especially, the defense as a whole, but that D-line especially, you could tell they were feeling it right off rip, like the intensity that they had. Every stop, there was juice behind it. There was emotion. There was a ton of like helmet, like pops to one another and like let's goes after, like they wanted it. I think they very much, understood the assignment, heard the noise a little bit about what Baltimore was. I mean, Sean McDermott got asked that question of, are you guys like big enough to like, handle Baltimore? At which he was like, we'll find out. And it just felt like they knew they had to come out and punch Baltimore in the face, and they did that. But then Baltimore adjusted. Game got close a little bit, but a good game between two good teams. Obviously, the Bills came out victorious. And Erik, that leads us a little bit, not completely, but a little bit to some eyes going forward. Got the graphic here from our friends at BetUS. Conference Championship Sunday, an NFC East affair in the NFC Championship game between the Commanders and the Eagles. What a wild season for Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. I was completely wrong on Jaden Daniels as a prospect. I did not see that coming.
No, and their offense is super creative. Yeah. It's explosive. They're very much like the Bills, where there's a lot of pieces moving prior to snap, post snap, a lot of misdirection. Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator of the Commanders, impressed me in that game. And of course, Jaden Daniels, a rookie, was obviously super impressive too. Interesting matchup between the Commanders and the Eagles with the NFC East there. But yeah, hats off to the Commanders, man. They looked really good.
Yeah, that offense, I was a bit down on Jaden Daniels coming out. And then pairing that with Cliff, who had more downs than ups in his year. And it was like, okay, we'll see how that fares. And even when it was going good, I was like, well, Arizona would always hit that wall at like week 10 or 11 or 12. We'll see what happens here. And they haven't. And yeah, that game against Detroit, just the creativity all year. And Daniels is such a great fit for the RPO style of offense that Cliff wants to run. And I'm very excited for that game to see. I think it's always cool to see like a third game in a season between division opponents and all that familiarity. How does that breed? And then what does this mean going forward with Jaden Daniels and maybe a new budding superstar and rivalry in that? And that is the early game, the 3:00 game, which means the Bills face the Kansas City Chiefs at 6:30, like they did last year in the divisional round, like they did for
technical difficulties.
Fair enough. Like they did in the 13 seconds game, I believe. So I'm a little superstitious and wary of that 6:30 kickoff, but a close line between Bills and Chiefs. The Chiefs being the favorite at home, -1, and then -125 for the money line. Don't worry, folks. Eric's dipping out, fixing some things on the technical side. And looking at this piece, and anybody's joining us live in the chat, feel free, obviously, to comment on this as well. But you see how close and tight this is between the Bills and Chiefs. I mean, it was close, too, the previous week between Bills and Ravens. And the Ravens being the dog there. Bills technically the dog here again. Eric?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. All worries. We're pros. We understand. Thoughts here on what you're seeing from this spread, basically where it's kind of like an even. The Chiefs being a 1-point favorite at home, but there's no real give and take here. It's extremely close, and I think reflective of kind of what we anticipate this game to be, which is going to be a hard-fought game between two really good teams that know each other well.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Andy Reid thought that the Bills would come in as like favorites, but it's, again, the Bills are used to playing there. And they know it's going to be a hostile environment. And these are two teams that are just so evenly matched and play this year, at least, have played such a similar style, when it comes to, especially with the offensive side of the ball. I'd say the only thing that really stands out differently is I think that the Bills' run game has been much better, and their offensive line as a whole has been better if you're talking run and pass game. But I feel like philosophy-wise, the offenses of the Chiefs and the Bills are very similar in many ways when it comes to how they run things. And so it's going to be a fun game. I can't wait. And I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I do like this matchup when you're talking offenses and defenses on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, just the coordinators for the Chiefs and even the coordinators for the Bills, Babbage, the season he's had, Joe Brady, the season that he's had, and getting some head coaching opportunities potentially this offseason, already interviewed with the Saints. And we just know the history between these two teams, not even just this season, but obviously going back to the past with the Bills, giving them their really only, real loss of the season this year. Got to go to Arrowhead, trip to the Super Bowl on the line. Can the Bills finally get past the Chiefs? Can the Chiefs continue their three-peat quest? Like, there's so many little mini storylines and narratives attached to this game. And this graphic obviously presented by our friends over there at BetUS. And if you are looking for a new sports book this football season, BetUS is your answer. They give the fastest payouts in the industry, a 150% bonus on your first deposit, and then a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. They have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business. They allow you to get 10% back on your net losses twice a year, and they also can give you your very own personal account manager. Head over to our friends at BetUS for all of your sportsbook and betting needs. Eric, let's go back, wind the clock a little bit.
Let's do it.
Yeah, to put a bow on the Bills' victory against the Ravens in the divisional round. Start on the defensive side, going up against a MVP candidate in Lamar Jackson, against a multiple offense in terms of their pass attack, in terms of their run game, personnel groupings, just the tall task it is to go up against this Ravens squad at any point, let alone in a single elimination winner-take-all type of atmosphere and moment and game. And the Bills came out, like we alluded to, they came out swinging. They came out wanting to draw first blood, wanting to punch first. And like you said, they did. And we saw it right from literally the first play in the first series.
The entire season we talked about and showed you here in the film room how the defense specifically would come out and kind of like a heavyweight bout, just let the opponent show his cards, let the opponent kind of, throw some punches first, and then they would adjust, halfway through the second or at halftime at the very least. And I felt like this game was different, Ant. I felt like they came out and they were proactive rather than reactive, and they took charge. They dictated the tempo of that game. They forced the Ravens to kind of take a step back, like, whoa. Why are you guys blitzing so much? Whoa. Why are you guys playing 40% man so much? Like, this is not what you normally
What's
do.
happening?
Yeah. 5-man surfaces, 3 linebackers, 33.3%. Like, all these things were thrown right at the Ravens. The Bills didn't wait. They didn't sit back and wait. They dictated. And I thought that was the biggest difference in the first half, but also why a good team like the Ravens in the second half, they were the ones to adjust. So the script was kind of flipped there. Yeah. And that's why you saw the first and second half differences when you're talking the Ravens offense versus the Bills defense.
Hey, you mentioned the blitz rate piece. That was a huge one for me. The Bills' blitz rate during the regular season was 20.2%, which was 27th. Their blitz rate versus the Ravens was 48.4%, which was the highest of the divisional round. They also had a 41.9% pressure rate when they blitzed, but those blitzes weren't just for the pass. They were for the run. Yes. They were attacking, and they were trying to heat up Lamar, make the ball come out quick, or try to pressure him, and it worked in a multitude of ways, but then it worked against the run as well. And I thought those first 3 plays were so fun just because of how much we had talked about the specific elements. So the first play, you get that 5-man surface, 3 linebackers, run stop. Second play, run stop. Third play, it's odd mirror, and Lamar breaks it. Like,
and he
Lamar
broke
gets
it
away,
immediately.
And I was like, I was so hyped after the first 2, and then third down, I was like, here it comes. Odd mirror, I was super hyped, and I was like,
and he just got a little overzealous. Milano did, and then Jackson took off for a first time.
Yeah. I beat it. And I went from so high, I was like, all right, I guess I'll come back down to earth a little bit. But yeah, how it played out, it was fun to see how it played out given how we kind of forecasted it. But also, I think you nailed it perfectly. The juxtaposing that with what they've been all year, which was, all right, let's come out, do our thing, we'll adjust. This one was like, nope, like kind of all gas, no brakes early on. Let's make them adjust. And then I like how you pointed out Baltimore adjusting. I remember Harbaugh being interviewed before the start of the second half. And, they were like, generic. Oh, what do you need to do? Yada, yada. And he gave some points, but he was like, what we need to do is stop turning the ball over. We're going to score some points this half and we'll be fine. And he just said it very matter-of-factly. And I was like, I don't like how confident you are in that answer. And then we saw them just move the ball seemingly at will through the ground and the air. And again, we'll go into another point that we talked about. Turnovers continuing to be a big piece for this Bills defense. It seems to, I'm not going to say what I was going to say because I don't want to jinx them, but they continue to get takeaways. And but if they all put it all together against a team like the Ravens, where you needed to put it all together. And it was really cool to see how they came out versus what they've been all year.
Right. And we're going to show you some of the film of the run blitzes. If you guys don't know, there are blitzes that are meant to gap out, versus the run. The Bills play a lot of 2 high safety structures. They play a lot of 6-man boxes, so light boxes. So they have to strategically call run blitzes from a safety or from the nickel and Taron Johnson to gap out up front rather than just have a heavy box from the start. They have guys fly in basically post snap to execute run blitzes. We're going to show you a couple of those. And at times, they may think that a run is coming and call a run blitz. And you know what? It's not. And it's a pass. And it ends up being a blitz in the passing game. So that's why you saw the blitz percentage so high, because some of those blitzes were probably actually called to stop the run and Derrick Henry. And they were obviously the Ravens were going and passing. But when it came to passing and the blitzes, the Ravens had 15 dropbacks with the Bills blitzing them. They were 8 for 14 for 129 yards. But more importantly, they had a sack, an interception, and a forced fumble. So when we're talking about being aggressive, did it always work? No, but it was high variance. It was risky at times. Absolutely. There are guys wide opens at times, but it heated Lamar up. It sped him up. It got him uncomfortable. Some of the blitzes were gapped out to close down escape rush lanes for Lamar. I thought overall they did a good job, aside from their odd mirror looks honestly didn't work all that well.
No,
I gave Lamar way too much time, and he had a bunch of yards in production against that odd mirror look. But even with that said, it was a good balance between aggressive blitzing and run blitzing and pass blitzing. But hey, sit back a little bit too. They threw the kitchen sink in many ways and kept Lamar off balance. So much so, some of his passes were just way off because of that pressure.
Yeah, they did a good job kind of keeping him from being comfortable, like making him constantly have to make a play or feel like he has to make a play. He's got to read something quick. They kind of did in a much, much different fashion than what the Dolphins did. But it made me think of when the Dolphins would always mentally tax Josh Allen. And it felt like they were trying to mentally and physically tax Lamar by coming after him rep after rep. And the turnovers, I thought, and you given the stats, I feel like that works out so perfectly because it's just been what this Bills defense has been. Like they will give up some pieces and they'll get theirs and they'll get gouged, but then they'll get a big tackle for a loss or a strip sack or an interception. And at the end of the day, that balances out. And you see it even in the numbers. I mean, when the Bills blitzed against the Ravens in the divisional round, the Ravens had a negative 0.59 EPA per pass, which is significant. And then the Bills also had a 60% pressure rate. And sometimes Lamar got them, but they got Lamar to be uncomfortable. They tied it in with other pieces. And overall, I thought it's the balance that's worked for them all year. So dance with the girl that brought you, and it is who they were. One quick piece too, I liked on I remember we talked about it in whichever film room years ago, but like one of the highest blitz rate games for the Bills was against like Mac Jones and the Patriots. And it had nothing to do. It was like, well, you're not blitzing for the pass, but they were just sending all these run blitzes to stop the run. But then the Pats would pass it and it's still registered as this blitz. So the Bills had like a 60% blitz rate. And it was like, wow, they're really coming after Mac Jones. It's like, no, they're blitzing the run. And if it's a pass, it still counts.
Yeah, that's just the way it usually unfolds. But it's important. Those blitzes, those run blitzes are super important to the defense because of how light the boxes are, as you can see here at from this angle. And also because they like to play those two high structures. Buffalo Bills, 59 Mafia. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate the support. He says, believe. We got to, man. This is I feel like this team, they've been here before. They've acted like that the last few weeks in the playoffs. And just even hearing them today and some of the press conferences over the last couple of days, it does feel like they got some business to take care of still. Like it's not done. And they again, like we said last week, they are laser focused. I just feel like they understand there aren't many more swings ahead. I mean, we assume that as long as Josh is healthy, there are, but you just never know. And so I feel like this team understands that because of those scars of the past.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. You can never, I'll always go back to Dan Marino going to that Super Bowl early in his career. And you're thinking, if you're a Miami fan, if you're the Dolphins, like, oh my God, we got Dan Marino. Who cares that we lost to the Niners? We got Dan Marino. And they never got back to a Super Bowl. Like you can never take anything for granted. And I think this team knows that with what they've been through. We talked about it last week, the scars and how this team has been forged and built. And yeah, for it, I think they'd be prepared regardless of who they're playing in the AFC Championship, but especially the fact that it's Kansas City, you know that they know kind of the assignment even more. So kind of like what they did this week against Baltimore.
No doubt. And so let's get into some of that Baltimore film. Bills defense, you see a light box here, but you're going to see a Hamlin come off the right side of the screen here. And this is a run blitz. So these run blitzes, again, you're usually going to have a DN spike and you're going to have a D tackle spike backside to kind of screw up the blocking here, the blocking that is going left to right on the screen. And then, of course, you're having Hamlin come off the edge there to kind of set the edge and take on Ricard. And so doing that gets Ricard occupied, first of all. But then you can see the two offensive linemen go to block Epinesa, but the fast flow of the linebackers, which we talked about, those guys have to come down range and downhill so that it takes away the combination block or the double team on D tackles and DNs, as you see here. And so those guys do. They come downhill, and now you can see all of the rush lanes are clogged up. Epinesa disengages and makes a tackle along with several other Bills players on this run blitz early in the game.
It felt like DeMar Hamlin just spent his entire, like the majority of the game coming forward on run blitzes and spinning late and making plays. And we talked about it. They weren't having the individual wins up front. Okay, like let's let the D line just kind of do its thing and we'll fill from there. Like when they have been successful stopping the run, it has been with run blitzes or committing bodies or numbers to the box. And you see it here again early. Like you have a hat in every gap. You are accounted for. AJ Epinesa makes a good play to get free. and get on Henry. But part of that is due to the trigger from the second level, pulling 65 off that double. So that way that double team isn't sustained. Like you mentioned, it is that complementary football piece, everybody doing their 111th, and boom, look at that beautiful picture. Hamlin in his gap, Bernard in his, AJ in his, shedding his block, eyes on Henry, Milano in his gap, Austin Johnson in his, Ed Oliver is able to work back inside. You have every gap accounted for with the bodies that you have, and being gapped out was a mission and a focus for this team, and we saw a lot of success with it when they did it.
Yeah, you got to get those stalemates at the line of scrimmage. You can't let Derrick Henry get going. Here's another run blitz from Hamlin off the right side of the screen here. Same thing. Again, you're getting that spike from these guys right here, and then you're bringing Hamlin off the edge. And look how soft this edge is because of that spike and work by the D end here. Now you have a soft edge, and Hamlin just comes downhill, front side, runs coming at him. He's able to make Henry cut it back, and then you get that pressure, as you talked about, with Oliver from the backside, right here. Watch him work down the line of scrimmage. He and Daquan Jones doing great work on the backside of this, and they're able to blow up that play. But like you said, Hamlin had a great game overall. Yes, he got beat on that post on that one play, but aside from that, I thought he was phenomenal. And go figure, the area that we've been touting all season with him about his high floor, his tackling. His tackling was huge in this game. There were a couple plays where Derrick Henry and others could have easily scored if it wasn't for Hamlin tackling well in this game.
I thought it was so funny because there was literally one run where Justice Hill ran through him. And then every other time it was him and Henry, he had Henry down. And I was like, of course, you would get trucked by Justice Hill, but get Henry down. I mean, even I'm thinking the 1-2, the Ravens really started to work some zone runs and power in the second half. And a lot of it was working kind of in tandem with the Bills with these run blitzes and these stunts. Like we showed you guys what happened on the first one, and we're showing what happened here. But when you get these slants and this attack from your defensive front, it can work beautifully like this. Like you see Andrews, he goes split flow, Hamlin replaces him. You've got the push from the backside. Everything is good and nice and neat. But if you've got a run concept that is working with that, like sometimes the Ravens will run power and AJ Epinesa slanting inside, and they're like, okay, cool, we'll wash you down and let the run hit from where you were. Hamlin saved a couple big runs by coming from the second level and getting Henry out. There's one power run in particular that sticks in my brain. But again, that's something we've talked about a lot through the year, Erik. Like when these run blitzes and having those type of games up front, it is somewhat risk reward because you can get caught out against the right call at the right time from the offense. And now all of a sudden you're slanting to the right and the offense is like, sweet, that's where we want to down block you to. And if they're adding and removing gaps at the same time, you can be put in a bad spot.
Right. And here's that interception by Taylor Rapp. He's the post safety back there. Again, blitz. This is another blitz. I don't know. We can't tell you if this was just an add-on pressure from Milano where, hey, Henry's staying in so you can green dog and rush the quarterback. But either way, it's a 5-man pressure, and the Bills are in man coverage. And Rashad Bateman does a good job of creating separation. Really nice release right here. And he breaks it to the corner. For some reason, Lamar throws it up the field, but he had to throw it very quickly. He had to anticipate it before the break happened because of this pressure from Milano versus Derrick Henry inside. He does a good job of getting on the doorstep of Lamar and speeding him up, and that leads to interception on the back end.
Yeah, with where he threw it, I was wondering, like, did he think Bateman was going to keep going or run like a deeper corner? And I kept looking at it and trying to figure out what was going on in his mind. But at the end of the day, he has to make that throw, like you said, because he gets heated up by Milano. You highlighted his track there. Henry lunges, quickly swims him. Some of this kind of vintage Matt Milano that we've seen throughout the years heats up Lamar. And Lamar's forced to throw this ball early. And Lamar had a nice comment about this after the game. He was, and you could see it from this end zone angle. He's like, I didn't hold the post safety. I stared down my guy and I threw it, made a bad throw. But you can see him just looking towards Bateman that whole time. Taylor Rapp is that single high post safety. He literally just reads Lamar's eyes and goes for it. But Lamar sped up because of that blitz. I think this was kind of that first play where we started to see these little breadcrumbs of the pressure affecting him in various ways and speeding him up. And sometimes he'd break out of it and make a good throw or escape. And other times it would get him in kind of precarious positions like it did here.
Yeah, and Lamar balled out overall. He balled out, but
good.
He, in many ways, cost his team the game in the first half. I mean, those turnovers, these type of turnovers led to points. And again, it let the Bills set the tone, set the strategy, set the script for this game plan. And this is what they wanted to happen in the first half with all these pressures and catching them off guard and off balance at running these, these types of blitzes and type of aggression. Just awesome stuff. And here's another one. This is our easy loan auto sales play of the game. This is one that possibly was a regular blitz. This could be also a run blitz right here. You see the snap is a little high. And this is interesting to me because the last time the Ravens played in Buffalo in the playoffs, they had like 2 or 3 bad snaps in that game as well. So the snap goes a little high, but Lamar, he corrals it. But just look at the angle because Hamlin's blitzing here. This is another pressure. Hamlin's coming off the edge. The Bills are in man coverage, but look at the poise and the angle by Hamlin. If he falls for that pump fake right there, Lamar is scoring here. I think Lamar's taking it right up, and he's one-on-one with Taylor Rapp. I'm taking Lamar on that. I think this play by Hamlin might have been the most important play from him this entire year. Great poise, doesn't fall for the fake, and then he wraps up the leg of Lamar, and Lamar tries doing a little too much, and the ball comes out, and Von Miller is off to the races for the big play. This was huge, Anthony. I think this was one of those plays that, again, looking back on this season, regardless of how it ends up this coming week or the week after that, this is one of those plays that I think was a huge turning point in this game and in this season especially for Damar Hamlin himself.
Yeah, and I was really just impressed that he kept his footing on the field with the snow. Like, he breaks down, he's under control, he's got his base underneath him. Like, you don't see him wipe out as Lamar slams on the brakes. He just comes down under control and doesn't. This is such a high floor play from Damar Hamlin. Like, he doesn't try to do too much. He's not going for the big hit. He's not going for this crushing blow. Like, he contain him, break down, play under control. You know what the situation is. And Lamar talked about this a little too. Like, they called an RPO. He didn't want to throw the ball because he had linemen downfield. But then, and so even think of that perspective, right? Like, all this is going through Lamar's head, and he does try to do too much, and it puts him in a spot where, the ball slips out of his hand. We get the run action to the left. You can see the lineman downfield. One of them, Tyler Linderbaum, 64. Like, he's got dudes downfield, so he doesn't want to spit it out. He has that lane to run and go. Like, it is there. And here comes Damar, calm, cool, collected, under control. If Lamar gets up there, maybe Von is trying to break a little bit, but I mean, Lamar in space with that type of alley and opportunity is there. And look at Lamar just doing everything he can, hanging onto the foot. Or Damar and Lamar is going to drive me nuts as we do this. Damar doing everything he can, hanging onto that foot. And Lamar is also trying to do everything he can by trying to make a play, and the ball just slips right out. And then we get something you say every week, population to the football. Jefferson's there. Vaughn is there. And good on I really thought the ball was going to come out.
Oh, it was dangerous.
He is loaded for to punch the hell out of it. He looks like Michael Myers or some killer, like coming behind somebody and ready to just like take him out. Right. Like, he is loaded for bear trying to get that ball out.
Just awesome stuff, man. This is our easy loan auto sales play of the game. And like I said, I think it's probably Damar Hamlin's biggest play of the year because you guys see it, man. Lamar had a lane here. And honestly, if he doesn't do this little fake right here, this little pump right there, if he would have just hit his back foot and just went north and south, I think he scores. Just great work from Damar Hamlin, the Bills defense, and a huge turnover to give the Bills back the ball.
Yeah, and you can see Lamar at the end of this play, a little frustrated. He puts his hands up, kind of smacks a little bit, like he knows that he's already pissed at himself. He's upset there. And if you can start, he looks like literally put his hands up, and it's like, oh, and if you
should have wore gloves. That's what he was saying. He should have wore gloves, 2 gloves.
The old Kurt Warner, Ben Roethlisberger playoff style.
Yeah, you're making fun of Teddy Bridgewater, 2 gloves. Like, you should have wore 2 gloves.
You get that tack on those hands. It's like super glue nowadays. Yeah, man. Like, can you get into his head a little now? And maybe that carries through the rest of the game. And we saw several like forced errors and some unforced ones as the game went along. And I think part of that is due to that attack-minded nature of the Bills early on that kind of got Baltimore out of their comfort spot and maybe even caught them by surprise. Like we talked about, given how they've been.
No doubt about it, man. It was it definitely caught them off guard in the first half. You can't deny that. That just set the tone. It's much like we talked about what Bill Belichick used to do to the Bills with Josh Allen when he was young, is heat him up in the first half and then back off in the second half. It was kind of that game plan. And like I said, I know it was close at the end, but it did work.
Absolutely. A win is a win is a win. And the Bills did that in large part due to how they came out in the first half here, getting a couple of these turnovers like we showed. And this play being the Easy Loan Auto Sales play of the game, sponsored by our friends and partners at Easy Loan Auto Sales. Regardless of your credit, Easy Loan Auto can help get you behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All of their vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and they have 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls. They can get you driving today. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval. That approval will maybe almost be as fast as Justice Hill on this play, trying to run down Von Miller. Oh, we got to we got to abide by the rules here. We got to stop. We got a super chat from Carl. Carl, appreciate you being here, and thank you very much for the super chat. Carl says, that is a major component of playoff football. When you get your hands on someone, wrap up, don't let go, tackle in all caps and with an exclamation point. And then he followed it up with saying Damar Hamlin had a great game.
It's fundamental football. The playoffs, it matters. The fundamentals matter. Catch the ball, right? Catch the ball. Don't turn it over and tackle. And those were the keys to this game. That's why the Bills won. Fundamental football. And on both sides of the ball, they did a great job. And Carl, you're not wrong, man. You nailed it. That's coach speak in many ways.
Yeah,
but it's truth. There's truth to it.
Yeah, and I think we say it in big games all the time, and it's a known adage, like, don't beat yourselves. And that rings even more true in the playoffs. And I'm even thinking to I think Troy Aikman said it during the whenever playoff game, the wild card round. He talked about how Jimmy Johnson always used to say, like, his philosophy was, it's not about who makes, more big plays. It's about who makes less negative ones for yourself. And that was a big difference in this one. The Ravens didn't take care of the football, and that ended up being in a game where they lost by 2 points. What did the Ravens have? Several drops, several turnovers in a variety of ways, in a variety of fashions, and that ended up being the difference in this game. Oh, we got to stop again because we got another super chat. Thank you very much, Jason, for being here, and thank you for the super chat. Jason says, stay safe, Erik. Respect for what you do on and off the film room. You stay safe too, and don't cut your hand putting decorations on the tree, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. And it was a sobering last few days. Close friend and coworker of mine was killed in the line of duty. So I think that's what Jason is referencing. So RIP to him and his family. Prayers out to his family. This is fun to do every week with you guys, but again, we have real jobs, and my real job is can have those moments of seriousness, unlike us clowning around here in the film room at times. But no, I appreciate that, Jason. It means a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you have we have real jobs. You have a real job. Like a real job. Yeah, but that's awesome from Jason. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, that's awesome.
On to the next play. Okay. And just to highlight how prepared this defense was. All week, we heard about all these offensive linemen, 300-pound guys. Let's line them up. And Ricard in there. And they want to come downhill. And you heard, even I think it was Orlovsky or Mina Kimes talk about, hey, they ran this 15 times versus the Steelers. That's all fine and dandy, but there's going to be something drawn up. There's going to be some kind of pass drawn up. Well, guess what? They did it right here in the low red zone. And what they're trying to do is they have the extra offensive lineman over here. This tackle, Stanley, is eligible. And I want you to watch on the snap how prepared the Bills are, especially Epinesa right here. You see him take on Stanley, and then as Stanley looks to release, watch Epinesa. Totally prepared for him. This play shut down, and that's what allows Greg Rousseau to get home for the sack.
We talked about Hamlin a little bit. AJ Epinesa had a crazy good game. And nothing overly flashy, just good run stops, some good run fits, making plays at the line, stacking and shedding. And I feel like this kind of is old hat at this point. I feel like he welcomes any opportunity to get into coverage in some way, or like bat a pass down or make a play on a screen, anything related to like being in space against the pass. He relishes. Yeah, look at the feel and the understanding, because he's not watching Stanley. His eyes are locked in on Lamar.
And honestly, before the play, I was like, did anyone call this out? Did anyone point to him that he's eligible? Like, no one really points him. They see that there's an extra guy over here on the line of scrimmage, so making Stanley eligible. So I'm shocked at his awareness. And I thought, as good as he was versus the run, he had like 4 run stops. his awareness to
Yeah.
stop those runs and his awareness on some of these plays like this were just unreal.
Yeah. For him to, again, like feel that. He goes after Stanley, and then he can feel him like almost like a tight end, kind of like trying to delay or leak out. And he feels it. He doesn't see it. He's watching Lamar, and Stanley leaks out, and he's like, his spidey sense goes off. And he's like, wait a minute. This isn't right. Like, let me go out with this guy. And he takes it away. Like, and his eyes are still on Lamar. And then he's real sticky in coverage on Ronnie Stanley down there in the flat. Like, just a crazy, heady, good play from AJ Epinesa. He had several guys on the D line made a bunch of plays, but he had a sneaky good game. And for it to come against the run in a lot of ways, considering how poor he was against the run just even a couple years ago, just really awesome game from him.
And here's Rousseau. I circled working through 1, 2, pretty much 3. And you see him go ahead and get to the quarterback. But this is a coverage sack. And again, it started with AJ Epinesa recognizing this play. That was just unreal work from him. And we talked about how they were aggressive at times, but they also kind of stepped back a little bit. And more times than not, it didn't work. Well, here's one of the plays that worked. And it was a big play because you have the odd mirror look. So you have the 3 defensive linemen. And then you have Milano in a 2-point stance on the line of scrimmage, and he is the spy. And you see him aggressive. He's right at the line of scrimmage. And watch as Lamar feels a little pressure and looks to escape the pocket. Here comes Milano to pressure Lamar for him to get rid of the ball. And the ball is thrown to Henry, and it goes incomplete. This is a big play, primarily, again, because of the low red zone look and being able to, really slow them down. And this led to a field goal after this, but just a big play when you're talking the grand scheme of things with this odd mirror look in the red zone.
Yeah, and with how Baltimore moved the ball in this game, getting these turnovers and holding them to 3 in this opportunity when they get into the low red zone, this was paramount in terms of determining what happened in this game. And I really like this pressure. I love the odd mirror package. We've talked about it so much. And what I like about it at certain points is, depending on what you do with the 3 down linemen, you can kind of turn it into like a purposeful game. And this almost kind of plays out like a pirate stunt. I think it's a pirate stunt with Vaughn and Ed slanting inside, and then Milano wrapping around behind them. It plays out like a purposeful game. You could just pretend that Matt Milano is a defensive tackle there. This plays out just like that, except you've got Matt Milano, a good athlete, closing down on Lamar. And then because it's 3rd down and you've got the coverage, exactly, eyes are on there. People are playing from the top down, waiting for that throw, waiting for something to happen. Lamar gets heated up. He checks it down. You get population of the football, and the guy's close. And what I like about this too is this one highlights, you can get pressure to try and get a sack. And if you can, that's awesome. But sometimes you just want to use pressure to force the ball out of the quarterback's hands. And when you have this, it's 3rd down, low red zone. Cool. Let's drop back, try and heat him up quickly, because guess what? What's he going to have to do? Complete the ball short. We rally, we tackle. This time you don't have to make a full tackle because the ball gets knocked out and it's incomplete. I really, really, really love this play. Also because it was one of the few times that odd mirror worked.
It did. Yeah, it was one of the few times. And I will say I like odd mirror when they're playing man coverage more than when they're playing zone.
Absolutely.
They got tore up, I think, in zone, especially outside of structure when Lamar did break the pocket or extended the play from the pocket. The zone coverage, when it kind of turns into man, the Bills were just not able to leverage their routes. And so more times than not, it didn't work. But again, it was good balance overall. And I thought that was very important in the grand scheme of things. And so here's a play with the Bills up 21-19. This is the 2-point conversion. And this is another play that gets chalked up to a 5-man pressure, so a blitz. I want you to watch Milano here. I don't know if he's actually supposed to be rushing up the field or if it is kind of like a muddle rush or a cage rush. He kind of comes down a little bit. Again, 5 men, right? 5 guys. That's a blitz. There's your 4 and then Milano. And you see the Ravens are running mesh. They're running crossers and they do get a guy open. But because Milano doesn't rush completely at Lamar, he kind of hangs out. He reads the quarterback, gets in the passing lane, and bats that pass to go incomplete. This was huge, Anthony. And we talked all week about, so especially to Ravens fans, how different this game would be if, because the Bills didn't have Taron Johnson. They didn't have Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard. Well, go figure that these guys made plays in this game that really determined the outcome of this game.
Yeah, I mean, them missing this 2-point conversion is part of why they have to go for the 2-point conversion at the end. So this play kind of leads to the Mark Andrews drop later. Also, shout out to Mark Andrews on this one, who essentially kind of like holds multiple guys in the middle there to allow Isaiah Likely to get free. It looks like he holds him. It's either a really great obstruction or it's a purposeful hold. Yeah, right there. He occupies Hamlin, grabs Bishop. So doing some dirty work to kind of help Likely get free there. I love your points on Milano, because I was wondering, like, the same thing. Like, he rushes and then almost like he feels it or he recognizes it, or is he kind of like spying and watching a little bit from that outside, but just him sinking, gets upfield. He sees he's not going to get there. He watches Lamar drift in that pocket a little bit to his right, and then he loads up. And as soon as he starts to do that, Milano already starts to sink and drop out of that rush a little bit. And he gets right underneath that drag and gets a piece on it. And if he doesn't, I guess in this game with how many drops, it maybe Likely drops it. There's no guarantee. But he makes a really great play.
Likely drops it. I like that.
Oh, nice. Well done.
But yeah, you never know. But either way, if he catches that, that's a tie game. And the rest of the game, it changes here. This is
and how does the momentum shift there too? 20, it may sound small. 21-19 with the stop there is a lot different than 21-21 after the Ravens have been down. They come out and they claw. Like, there's just that. I know some people think momentum isn't a thing, but that little bit of difference, that goes a long way mentally and for the old momentum piece.
And the final play of this breakdown is the forced fumble by Terrell Bernard. And I like it because I love linebackers, but I will say Bernard right here, I feel like he was anticipating. Maybe he saw
100%
film that he was expecting Mark Andrews to run that crosser. They do it a bunch. And I feel like he kind of anticipated / guessed here. And so you see him drifting, because one of his strengths we talk about all the time is sensing and feeling those routes crossing behind him and how he can just naturally pivot and take it away. Well, here it's almost like he was guessing here, and you can see Andrews, he actually hooks it up. So he blew his coverage. So in the film room, when they watch this on Monday, I bet you Bernard probably wasn't, for the coverage portion of this, was graded very badly. But obviously once Andrews catches it, he goes and makes a play. He plays with that peanut punch. And what a play by him to knock this out. Just awesome stuff by him, man. You know, we always preach, and the coaches preach, play fast, play physical. And if you're going to make mistakes, make them at 100%. You saw him do that, but he didn't give up on this play. And as Andrews tries to get some yards after the catch, come back across the field, you see the perfect punch out by Bernard for the forced fumble and the recovery.
Yeah, we praised Bernard for, how many times did he do this against the Texans? He actually did it last week against Denver. Like, his ability to kind of go with one route and feel something behind him and fall off. And this instance, he's peeking over a little bit, maybe seeing the body language or thinks he knows something. He's like, okay, sweet. Here comes the over. There I go. And then look at just peeks. And even he looks at Hamlin. Look at Hamlin. Hamlin is pointing out. I feel like Hamlin's like, no. Like,
he went that way.
He went out. He didn't stay in. He went out. And so now Mark Andrews is literally wide open. Bernard has to get his head all the way around. And you're like, DeMar. Oh my God.
I got you.
DeMar slams on the brakes and he falls, but you get bodies going to the ball. And just, man, I just feel for Mark Andrews again on this one. Like, you make a great play and you're trying to get a couple extra yards, and Bernard goes out and puts his hand right on the ball. This is not an accident. This team consistently plays for the turnovers. They peanut punch every chance they get the opportunity to, whether they're the first guy in or the second. And again, this was another huge moment where the Bills created a turnover. Baltimore was moving the ball. And what else do we get up front here? As Erik has highlighted, we get a blitz. We get a 5-man rush. Milano coming off the edge. We get guys covered up. So another blitz, another pressure opportunity. You see Lamar gets forced off his spot. But again, Lamar makes a good play. It helps that he's got someone open by miles, but Bernard erases it in the blink of an eye with a focus that we've seen them do absolutely all year. Oh, and we got to stop because we got another super chat. Thank you very much, Jarrett, for being here. And thank you for that's awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the monetary donation. And Jared says, thanks for the excellent content. And as always, are you worried about how crazy the coverage busts were behind that contain rush? Is Cole Bishop a problem this week? What are your thoughts?
I like I said, I think when it came to the odd mirror stuff and containing Lamar. Like, I expected that from Lamar. I didn't expect him to reset the pocket 2 or 3 times without exiting the pocket, like the last touchdown. Like, that was nuts. But again, I think if it was just that, if that was their only plan to contain Lamar, then yes, I would have issues because, as I said, I liked the man coverage odd mirror stuff. I didn't like the zone stuff, especially when you're talking 5, 6, 7 seconds. You can't expect coverages to withhold that long. And so, yes, they're technically coverage busts, but it was a lack of a pass rush more than anything, which is why I thought the first punch being aggression was so important. I think that set the tone. And yes, they got, some good stuff against the odd mirror, especially in the second half. I think in totality, the balance was it was perfect. Mute. You're muted, buddy.
I thought you said something agreeing with me. And I was like, yeah. God, I don't even, when did I click mute? I'm falling apart. I'm out. This is done. Yeah, good luck against the Chiefs, everyone. Yeah, I'm done. I'm out. I've had enough. Yeah, the marriage aspect, I think, was what hurt them more than anything. Lamar escaping, or the resetting that's a really good point. Like Lamar pulling and being like, no, okay, there. Like that, I think, was kind of that bigger issue, which again, we talk about all the time. Whenever the Bills defense struggles the most, it's that lack of marriage. But I think a lot of the busts in this game, I don't want to, blow them off, but a lot of it is due to just like Lamar does what Lamar does. Like he escapes, he breaks contain, like he escapes and you think, oh, here comes the run. So now think about some of the busts too. Those guys are reacting to Lamar. So they're flowing to Lamar and he's throwing back across his body to someone in the middle of the field. And you're like, oh, okay, like what am I going to do there? Even on this one, this coverage bust was Bernard doing something that he's done with a lot of success throughout the entirety of the year. He just got beat on one opportunity this time. So I'm not too worried on that. In terms of Cole Bishop, I'm always going to be scared of a rookie who hasn't had like a ton of game reps under his belt being on the field, even more so in a playoff game, even more so in the AFC Championship against a team that is tremendous at exploiting weaknesses and attacking you and has a tight end that works in the middle of the field like Travis Kelce does. I like the juice and the athleticism that he brings. I'm not I'm 50-50. Like I'm worried because he doesn't have a ton of game reps and because he is a rookie, but I like the athleticism and the juice that he brings. I do think Taylor Rapp is such a calming factor back there, and I would prefer to have him in a big game like this.
I expect Rapp to play. I think him and Benford will likely play. But that's just my guess. I don't have anything when it comes to that. I think, hearing Milano had hamstring issues, I think honestly that's a bigger issue if he doesn't play or if he's hampered, because 1, you saw the plays he can make. 2, now that Kelsey's on the downside of his career, I want to see Milano match up with him more. So I want to see, him match up with Kelsey at times in this game. And if he can't go, then I don't want Dorian matched up with him. So then are you looking at safeties? Are you looking at Cole as a third safety coming in? I think we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I do worry more about Milano than Bishop. I think this defense has shown that a lot of times they can hide their safeties in many ways, or at least minimize the exposure of those safeties, especially when you're playing a team like the Chiefs, as we'll talk about later. That they're not the explosive Chiefs that, when Tyreek Hill was there. So it's a whole different ball game and dynamic now. So overall, I don't think Bishop is a problem. I'm with Anthony. I think his athleticism is good, but will Mahomes move him a little bit if he's in there as a starter? Yeah, of course. Of course he will. So in the grand scheme of things, I think it's very minimal, if any.
Yeah, that's fair. And Bishop's done some nice run fit pieces and some leverage plays, but yeah, the Milano one, I'm in lockstep with you. Like, I think that is such a bigger piece because of, especially with how he's been recently, where he's starting to come on more, coming forward, fitting the run, blitzing, coverage pieces, the intangibles that he offers. There's so much that he does for this defense from the neck up, and then physically now over the last several weeks as he started to really get into the season.
And that was physically, and when it came to his hamstring, I did hear Monday that there were some rumblings that he was kind of banged up or precautionary things were occurring when it came to him, but I do expect him to play. I don't know how, if he could just be generally sore. You know what I mean? Like, he could be generally sore. And maybe the weather had something to do with it. Maybe chasing around Lamar Jackson all day had something to do with it. You don't know, but I do expect these guys to play. It's a big game, and so they're gonna try to go, at least, at the very least.
Yeah, they'll give it a go, and then we'll see if we get a couple snaps for some guys and then they get pulled. We can kind of put 2 and 2 together and be like, they were maybe more hurt than we initially thought, and go from there. But obviously some big pieces to watch for on that side of the ball. Erik, anything else on the defensive side before we wrap that side of the ball and move on to the Bills offense?
No, great scheming on that side of the ball. I thought they set the tone overall. A+ effort. All those extra hours they put in that Sunday night after the last game, the time they put in, they talked about it. They went right into the film. They studied the entire season. I know they only won by a couple points, but everything they did, I thought, came to fruition, and it played out like they wanted to, obviously with a win. But yeah. I feel like they did some things. They held Derrick Henry under 90 yards. The Ravens were 9-0 when Henry had 20 attempts and 90 yards. They held him 16 for 84. Yeah, slowed him down a little, just enough. And I just thought overall they did a good job of containing Lamar when it came to the zone read stuff, the read option stuff. And so I thought the effort and the game plan was fantastic, especially when we talk about how it complemented the offensive football that they put together, Joe Brady and his offensive staff put together.
Yeah, when you're talking about that Ravens offense, you're not going to stop them. You have to try and mitigate them, or can you play another hand? Okay, let's be aggressive. Let's try to take the ball away. Let's force the issue. And they did that. And then they paired it, like you said, with their offensive game plan, which I also thought mimicked that kind of let's punch first and punch hard type of attitude on defense. I thought they mimicked that offensively with the physicality, a lot of duo in this game. Let's get downhill. Let's mash guys. We saw the physical elements from James Cook continue to show. We saw Ray Davis getting some work and some burn blocks from Khalil Shakir and the guys up front, like in general, but the wide receivers doing work as they have. I thought that marriage in terms, like the overall theme of this game, and I mentioned it in the intro, like the playoff football type of mentality or philosophy going into this game, I thought offensively it echoed and mirrored what they did defensively. And defense set the tone, and I thought the offense continued that tone, and how that paired with the defensive game plan obviously worked out well in their favor.
Yeah, defensively, aggressive, high variance, risky, yes, but aggressive and to create turnovers. And on the offensive side of the ball, it was the complete opposite. It was low variance, low risk, risk averse type offense, running the ball, leaning on your strength of the offensive line. And they didn't want a shootout because, let's face it, the Baltimore Ravens offense is historically good. They are amazing. As good as the Bills offense is, Lamar and Derrick Henry were so good together this year in that offense. And they didn't even have Zay, obviously. So Zay would have added a whole nother layer. That offense is historically good. They didn't want to get into a shootout with those guys. So they wanted to control the line of scrimmage, the trenches. They wanted to control, I don't want to say control the clock, but control the tempo, dictate on their terms, matriculate down the field.
Yes,
like you always say, right? Matriculate down the field. And so they didn't want those quick scores. They didn't want those explosives so that Lamar Jackson could start to heat up and the offense could start to heat up. James, we appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. And so I thought the game plan on the offensive side was good. And, having to run the ball, I know people didn't like all the run calls, but if you look at the success rates in the first half versus the second half, the passing game in the first half, the success rate was 50%. Rushing was 65%, guys. And so in the second half, I know a lot of people wanted some aggressive calls, some shots on the field, some plays beyond 5-10 yards. And I thought they did scheme up some of them, but they ended up getting covered, or you're seeing the Ravens drop into quarters or Tampa 2 coverages, capping down the field. Some bad execution by the offense. Second half, their rushing success rate was still better than their passing. In the second half, rushing percentage success rate was 57.1%. Passing was 46.7%. So you wonder if, one, I didn't expect them to have that much success against the Ravens run game, whether they're running out against their nickel or base. Two, if they were in the second half passing wise, success rate wise, we're 46.7%, and you started to pass more. Could it have led to turnovers? Could it have led to momentum changes? Yeah, absolutely. So they stuck to the game plan. I thought the execution, the passing game could have been better, whether it's from the quarterback or the receivers. But overall, they stuck to their game plan. And yes, they eked it out, but who cares? It worked. This game plan worked, especially if you're talking, like you said, complementary football, defense and offense.
And I think too, like we broke it down when they lost to the Ravens earlier in the year, that game started to get away from them. And they were having issues on early downs. They were getting into third and long and third and predictable, these known passing down and distances and drop back situations.
And they were getting away from the run.
Yep.
They were running the ball well at the beginning of that game.
Yep. And the game script forced them away from it. And then it put them into, again, these known passing situations and true drop back situations. And Baltimore was teeing off with creative coverages and dropping Matabike as a low hole player with Roquan and Hamilton and just doing all the, these hellish things defensively because they knew like, okay, they have to pass, or it's 3rd and 9, they're going to pass, or they're down by 20, they're going to pass. Let's start to work in these things. And so I thought starting out with the run, trying to stay on schedule, stay in good down and distances, that was a good game plan coming in on its own. But then you come into this game and the run is working. Like you're creating displacement. You are moving guys off the ball. And then it helps the first couple runs, kind of whatever. But then you get Khalil Shakir against Brandon Stevens. You hit him against Tampa 2. And then the run starts to flow. You're getting some Josh Allen run conversions. Cook is moving it. Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, not a ton of carries, but each had over 6.5 yards per carry in this game. Like they moved the ball well on the ground. And it made sense as a mode to attack this team in Baltimore initially. But then again, it was working. So as we've seen Joe Brady do a multitude of times, if it's not broken, he will not fix it. And so I thought he stayed with that piece, but then he layered in some nice play action elements off that run game, which worked a little bit. I mean, I'm the wrong person to ask here. I'm a huge fan of running the football, and I think it matters so much in football in general. Yeah. Like, so I will have I loved it. What was the Broncos game where like the first half, it was like 20, or no, it was the Ravens, 20 runs to 8 passes. I was like, this is awesome. This is my wheelhouse. Like, give me this all day. But it also worked. Like, it made sense. And I know there were some metrics of like, series conversion that started with a pass versus a run, and it was higher for the pass, but it started with the run game. The run game is what influenced everything. And I feel like that connection isn't made enough for folks, whether we show it on film or from a metric standpoint.
And go back and watch the post-game pressers for Kyle Hamilton, for, Van Noy. Those guys came out and said the Bills punched them in the mouth and the defense wasn't as physical as they normally are. They set the tone. They utilized the extra offensive linemen like they have all year, their identity. They came out and said, you know what? We know you're a top 3 defense versus the run this year. We don't care. We're coming downhill. This is our identity. And they moved the line of scrimmage. Spencer Brown was a bash brother. He was a bash brother in this game, in the run game and the pass game for that matter. But that offensive line, Spencer Brown, they set the tone. Extra offensive lineman, 16 plays, 71 yards, 11 attempts, 63 yards rushing, 5.7 per rush with an extra offensive lineman. All that talk during the week about Ravens 6 offensive linemen, 7 offensive linemen. So listen to this. Ravens attempts with extra offensive linemen on the field, 2 attempts for -6 yards. And so it was the Bills. They're one of the top teams with bringing in the extra offensive lineman and adding that extra beef. 11 attempts for 63 yards, 5.7 a rush. That set the tone. But then pairing that physicality and that downhill run game, again, it was a diverse run game too.
Yes.
I'll let you talk about that. But pairing that with the quick passing game, listen to this.
Yeah.
Per Pro Football Focus, average time to throw for Josh in this game, all passes, 2.27 seconds.
Oh, crazy fast.
Snap to attempt, 2.3 seconds. Snap to sack, 1.8. You're getting the ball out of his hands. They had 1 sack, but they got the ball out of his hands. Yes, sometimes it was passes at the line of scrimmage. Sometimes it was Allen checking to their screens versus because he thought pressure was
which
coming.
He did in this game a good chunk.
Yep. Maybe it's because he saw Shakir having leverage on a deep safety and throwing the screen out there. Like they had all these little answers for Josh Allen and the Bills offense to combat the sim pressures and all the blitzes that the Ravens tend to bring. And I thought it was a great plan. Again, overall by Joe Brady and his staff.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like the Ravens, yeah, like I mentioned some of them. I didn't even get into the Sims and Creepers, like you just mentioned. Like you don't want to get into that battle with the Ravens defense. They've got all these really fun body types and really good players on that side of the ball. You do not want to get into this known passing world against them. It didn't work out the first time. You don't want to try that game a second time. And also too, I think a lot of this is what the Bills offense has been all year. Josh Allen taking the profit, taking what's available, checking, Joe Brady giving him some built-in answers and easy buttons, and all of it stemming from the run game, mid-zone weak, and duo, and tackle Rapp, and dart, and everything, like, and tackle pull, and long trap, and all these things. And then lately it's been, some counter, some power, some little wrinkles there. But this is what this team has been. It is what brought them to the dance, and they've continued to do it. And again, I thought it worked well in this game. Overall, you showed some of the numbers from the split perspective. Overall in this game, a 55.6 rushing success rate and a 0.18 EPA per rush. That is tremendous. If the run is working, you stick with it, you roll with it. Yeah, I had no qualms. Real quick, Erik, we got 2 super chats. Another one from Carl. Carl, you're crushing it. Appreciate you. Carl says he wants to go back to the defense on this one. He says, would you play mainly man coverage versus the Chiefs?
It's a great question because, and I'm sure Carl's asking this because versus the Ravens, the Bills played man coverage 40.4%.
Which is a huge uptick for them.
Huge uptick from week 15 through the divisional game, minus week 18, because again, that was like a throwaway game. The Bills have been playing man coverage 25.6% of the time, which is only 19th. But here's the thing. The Chiefs so week 15 through the divisional round, minus week 18, because again, they saddled a bunch of their guys too. Opposing defenses have played man coverage 38.3% of the passing plays against the Chiefs. So that's the third highest percentage. So you have a very good question here, Carl. And seeing the speed on film of Brown and Worthy, it does scare me.
Yeah.
And they're still kind of incorporating some of Brown in there, and they're not getting explosive plays on paper. They're not. But this is Andy Reid in the AFC Championship game against the Bills. They're going to have some really good stuff that probably the Bills haven't seen on film. So it does worry me to think about, hey, let's just man up across the board.
Yeah.
Especially when we're still waiting to hear on the status of Christian Benford.
Yeah, good point. I'm a huge proponent of like man coverage, especially like press man, like get in their face, beat the hell out of them. If you die, you die, but I'm going in, swinging, and if you get me, cool. But you've got Hollywood Brown, who's starting to work in a little bit, like you mentioned. They've done a good job incorporating Xavier Worthy down the stretch in terms of snap share, usage rate. They're getting him more to attack like horizontal leverage than they are necessarily vertically, and he's starting to make some plays. Kelsey's doing his thing. And I know he hasn't made a ton of, waves since he got to Kansas City this year, but DeAndre Hopkins is still a dude that if you want to get and play man against him or press him, he'll be like, cool, like line up right here. Yeah, he will dunk on you. So I would like them, and I don't want to play mainly man coverage. Give me some split field stuff. I'm down for, if they go 3-by-1 or whatever, let's continue to lock the backside like they've been doing in the playoffs here. Let's lock and let's play box 4-over-3 or whatever the hell we want to do and play numbers on that side. Let's rules it up a little bit, mix in some spot drop. You got to kind of bring everything. Yeah, you got to kind of bring everything. But I do like the idea of high leverage situations, playing man coverage. I'd like to beat the hell out of Worthy and Kelsey as much as I can, and Brown too a little bit. And especially, you mentioned it earlier and we talked about it last week. I would really like to pair it with odd mirror. Like if we're going to go odd mirror, I don't want to get too predictable. Well, there's the odd mirror look. It's probably man behind it, but I would like to pair those two things together because I think they work very well in tandem for the Bills and in general. And
remember, like I know they're missing some guys in the last matchup, but I thought their game plan in that game was very strong as well. And so you're going to have to mix it up. It's Patrick Mahomes. You got to mix it up. You got to give him different looks and just key into certain things. Like if you're going to be aggressive man coverage, probably do it on early downs when they do want to get a few yards. They don't have a good run game. They got I think they're averaging 3.9 per rush. Yeah, so do it early. Do it early. So then you can fit the run game up easier with everyone else that's not in man coverage. And you can defend against screens that Worthy gets on first down as an extension of the run game. He gets a lot of screens. I got some info coming out on that, some tendencies. And usually they come on first down to augment their run game. And so I think there are going to be situations, like you said, well, they will man up. And and they're going to have, I'm sure they were, breaking down the film and the numbers as soon as the game ended last week. And so we'll see how they play it, but I do expect a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. And we got one more super chat from Buffalo Bills 59 Mafia. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the super chat. Again, this is a real simple one. All he says is coach wanted a more physical team, and he absolutely got that with what the Bills did offensively and defensively, putting those pieces together against Denver and against the Ravens. The way they moved the ball and attacked on both sides, he got a physical team. And let's dive into the film.
Yeah, let's dive into the offensive film here. It's we're going to look at some matchup stuff. We're going to look at some run game stuff. So top of the screen, 3rd and 8, first third down of the game. And you're going to see Shakir get matched up. You talked about all week, how the Ravens, they roll into some cool Tampa 2 type looks, but more importantly, they use Brandon Stevens as that middle hole runner right here. So you see him essentially get matched up with Shakir. Shakir runs right down the seam. And honestly, I'm surprised Josh threw it down the middle of the field when probably he could have hit a whole shot to the bottom, but he likes this matchup. This is what we told him to do. You can't be mad at him now, right? And so you get him, Shakir, matched up with Stevens. He stands in the pocket, Allen does, and drops a dime over the top of Stevens, and Shakir brings it down for the big conversion.
Yeah, the split safeties continue to split, and that, middle hole shot just keeps getting more and more open. And anytime, in theory, when you can attack Brandon Stevens, it is a good idea to do so. And Allen makes a good throw. Shakir makes a good catch. I love that this was that first kind of third down opportunity, dime look from the Ravens defense, and the Bills just gash it right away. But part of the reason why Allen's able to take that shot, and he has the time, the protection from the offensive line, giving him that pocket, and everyone doing their job here, but especially Spencer Brown, the initial punch to Kyle Van Noy, the placement of it, the timing of it, the synchronization, just really good pass rush rep for him to initially just completely stall Van Noy and then just move with him and stay in front of him completely. I thought he was really strong on this rep, along with the O-line giving him that protection, and Allen delivers a beautiful arced layered throw right over Stevens' head and right into the bucket. So beautiful.
Yeah, just great stuff. And I liked some of the play calling stuff early. 1st and 10 here. You see, a lot of, and this is the thing with fans, like maybe you're not watching the all 22 and hey, this is a high low. They're trying to high low the safety, but you can see the picture changes. This is really good. This corner route or this post route that I have drawn up is very good versus single high post safeties. It's going to put this post route and this over route. It's going to put this guy in a bind, but the Ravens change the picture. They split field safety it, and they eventually, fall into a Tampa 2 type look. So you see Samuel, he's kind of out. Shakir's out. And so what does Allen do? He reads high to low, and he says, you know what? There's no one there. I'm just going to take the check down to Kincaid. Very beautiful play design. And again, Josh playing within the structure of the system, not forcing it and getting it to his check down or his underneath player.
This was one of my favorite plays of the game, and I know it's so small, but it's in part because I love this coverage spin from the Ravens. Ardarius Washington, 29 there. You can see him at the little end of the red tail there for the Buffalo logo. He is that single high post safety. And then they spin, and it's that Tampa 2 robber, Tampa 2 hole, depending on how you want to verbalize it. And he becomes that high hole player, essentially the pole runner. Tre'Davious White is dropping as a deep half player on the other side. And that's a really cool coverage spin. You've got their 2 split safety players here are Nate Wiggins, number 2 to the top of the screen, and then Trey White, Bills legend, at the bottom of the screen. So they're dropping 2 outside corners as the deep half players. And then your cloud corners in quotes, are Kyle Hamilton to the bottom of the screen and Marlon Humphrey at the top, he's comfortable being outside. He can do outside and in. I just think this is a really great coverage spin. And then Allen just nullifies it by being like, oh, the picture changed. Oh, it's not there. All right, cool. Let me just take the free profit and check it down right now. And not only do they get a first down, but this play is on first down. So even if Kincaid gets popped right away, it's what, 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3. Like, you are staying more than on schedule. Like, that's just, I love the coverage spin, but I think that's another example of Allen, what he's done all year, just being calm and collected and being like, okay, this is open. I'm just going to take this. And that matters a lot with Kansas City coming up, because they'll get to a lot of creative spins, and you got to take that profit provided you can identify it.
And a play that you're going to see a bunch versus Kansas City are just wide receiver screens, especially Shakir. Kincaid, Knox, I'm sure. This is an RPO. It's a tackle Rapp. Brown's pulling. But you see how much leverage the Bills have out here. There's no one over the top of Shakir. This is taking the profit. You see Josh just quickly get it out there, and it's a great play by the safety. And this is no surprise. This is no surprise. That safety, Washington, is a very good tackler, and he will also lay the wood. So although this play didn't work, I like the decision by Josh here. It's just a very good play in open space versus Shakir, one of the better guys with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I call Ardarius Washington like the red shell in Mario Kart because he's just like this heat-seeking missile type of dude. And despite being small, I mean, he popped Najee Harris in the wild card round, and Harris outweighs him by like 40, 50 pounds. How many times, Erik, have we shown these plays where when we talk about football is all about numbers and angles in space, and the space and the numbers are to your advantage, or even the angle initially, it just gets canceled out because Ardarius Washington makes an absolutely tremendous play, but also to the point, Khalil Shakir, second most yak in the league, only behind Jamar Chase. What do we say all the time when he gets the ball in his hands? He's like a running back. He makes dudes miss with regularity. Yep. This is the right call from Allen. This is the right read. It's just canceled out because the dudes on the other side get paid to play football too. And Ardarius Washington makes a great play. Hey, especially again, we talked about it with Hamlin, but spinning down that fast in the snow and not losing your footing and making the tackle on Shakir, that's a hell of a play.
Right. And I know, again, that those plays pissed off a lot of fans because they are throws at or near the line of scrimmage. But that I'm taking that every single time. 10 out of 10 times. That's Shakir, guys.
And
that's
how much
Shakir.
has that worked all year? We could do a whole episode and just show you like 50 times where that's worked to a variety of guys, especially Shakir. Like odds are that works for you a lot.
And we probably will in the lull of the offseason.
Fair? Yeah, that episode idea. Let me make a note.
So Bills on this play, they get man coverage. Watch Samuel bottom screen. I really like this route from him. It's something they do in these 4x1 sets. They isolate him on the back side, kind of a nasty split, kind of a quasi tight end alignment, nub tight end type play where he sells like he's running that mesh and then pivots out of it. And Josh hits him for the first down. I really like this play on third down from Josh Allen to Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, they've run these return routes a ton this year. They usually pair it with the underneath route with the smash concept. And we really don't get it hit a lot. And then we got some mesh return last week, so he hit a return route. And Allen hits one on this one to Samuel. I like the route, under control, like he's got his base underneath him. He slips a little bit, but then is able to pop out, regains himself, and really good ball placement by Allen. Puts it out in front of him, which is what allows Samuel to kind of catch it on that upfield shoulder and continue horizontally and then get up there. And then Wiggins is playing in trail. Samuel's able to get that first down. Nice little route, nice ball from Allen. Good timing and sequence of all of it. I like that too.
Yeah, here's a play from the second half as well. We talked about it in the Denver game. You know, maybe the Bills send out a heavy package and eventually pass it, spread it out and pass it. So bottom of the screen, you have Gilliam. Shakir's in the slot to the bottom. You have Knox and Kincaid up top. Curtis Samuel in the backfield. And so this is a little different version of essentially 13 personnel or 12 personnel, right, Ant? You got one running back, two tight ends, but the running back is Gilliam. So how is the defense going to match that? They match it with their base offense. And again, I know it's a short pass, but given the weather and the game script and how the Bills wanted to play in this game, I love this play. You're sending Gilliam deep, and then you have an option route by Shakir. He's in space. And again, you're getting 5-6 yards or more, especially after the catch. It's a nice, safe play. It's not a risky play. It's controlling the tempo of this game. I love this personnel grouping on top of this concept.
I think that's really good phrasing from you, controlling the tempo of the game. That's what it felt like for the entirety of this game. It felt like the Bills were dictating, like you mentioned earlier, and controlling the tempo of the game. And again, this is somewhat of an easy button. You get a little levels concept to the top with the dig from Knox and the little short in, shallow in there from Kincaid. And then bang, who is Khalil Shakir matched up against? He's matched up against a linebacker. So cool. And Allen sees it right away. Look at Allen's eyes right there. Yep. He snaps the ball and he looks. What does he see? Because of how the Ravens matched based on the Bills personnel, you've got 3 linebackers in the game. So you've got Malik Harrison, number 40, covered in the flat against Samuel. You've got Roquan in the middle, covered in the dig from Knox. And then you've got Board, the linebacker on the hashes, lined up against Shakir. And you take that matchup every day of the week. Shakir's open. Take the easy button. Take the free profit. And then Shakir, what does he do? Falls forward a little bit more. Gets a couple extra yards after contact. And you stay, right? Just does what he does. You stay on schedule. And again, in this game, with the weather, with the elements, with your run game and the defensive style that you're playing, this fits the plan. This fits the mold. And it's second down. Good call. Yeah. Second down, little longer because you're behind the sticks. It's like 2nd and 11 here. Look where he catches the ball. That's a good chunk already. And then he falls forward and he gets some more yards.
Yeah, that's a safe play. It's good personnel matchup by Brady getting the upper hand for the offense just on personnel grouping. Again, it's a 6-yard pass, but then you get a few more yards thanks to Shakir post catch, and you're in a manageable 3rd down situation given the weather. Here's another 3rd down, and the Bills once again get Shakir matched up on Stevens. And I talk about this play because this is their double China 7 play, and you see Shakir in motion, and while it does go incomplete, I know a lot of people thought this was probably a hold or a penalty here. I just wanted to show that, like, hey, the Bills in the second half, it's not that they weren't trying in the passing game. Some things didn't go their way for sure, but I'm not going to be mad about them attacking Brandon Stevens when Shakir. I just can't be. I can't be. That's what we wanted all week. We talked about that matchup and finding that matchup, getting whoever the ball against that guy. And they did it time and time again, but sometimes the defense, holds. Sometimes the execution
literally and figuratively. Yeah.
But I just wanted to show these plays because it's not that they weren't trying. They had a really good plan. It just sometimes execution, sometimes defense. These things happen. It's the NFL. It's a divisional round.
Yeah, and again, the Ravens have good players all over the defensive line, the second level, in the secondary, and Stevens is the guy you want to attack. I forget out of how many qualifying corners it was, but like worst EPA per target for corners, like worst success rate, like against and just horrible metrics in a multitude
bottom
of ways.
Of the league. Yeah. It was terrible.
Bad. And if Bills fans want to go back and remember, think of some of the plays that the Bills had in week 4 against the Ravens. The deep shot that Keon Coleman dropped was against Brandon Stevens. The deep shot that Coleman caught was against Stevens. Yeah. The other one that Keon Coleman caught deep, Brandon Stevens. Like, he is somewhat of a vulnerability amongst a defense that is very solid in a multitude of ways. And it's 3rd down here. You're thinking this is going to be open. Plus, Allen gets heated up a little bit, so he spits this ball out. I do think it was kind of a grab on the hip there. But I'm fair with them I'm a defensive guy, so I beat the hell out of these wide receivers. The game favors them already too much anyway. But yeah, that could have been a hold. And if Shakir catches it, you're looking at 4th and short. Maybe they go for it, or it sets up an easier field goal opportunity. I think it's a sound call given the opportunity and again the overall mentality in this game.
Right, and so to say that the game plan wasn't good or they weren't attacking, here's on that first drive coming out of halftime, 4 strong. Does this play look familiar, Anthony?
I wonder if they maybe ran this against, I don't know, the team they played last week.
Yeah, the Broncos. Curtis Samuel, touchdown. Yeah. This is Dalton Kincaid this time. You see him running that deep over, and they just don't execute. You could charge this probably to Allen. You could charge maybe a little to Kincaid. If you look at it from the end zone angle, I don't like Allen's mechanics on this play. His sequencing isn't all that good. The throw is off. Watch him. It just looks like he throws on the brakes at the end there. You see that it's not smooth. It's not a smooth follow through. Just awkward looking. And maybe he just didn't know what type of trajectory to put on this ball when Kincaid's coming across the field. Some people are saying that maybe they expected Kincaid should have flattened it out a little more, and Josh expected that. Either way, this is an execution play. And either way, you can't tell me that the Bills didn't try to push the ball down the field or they didn't try doing things beyond the line of scrimmage when right out of the half, the first couple of drives, you see plays like this, ones that they scored on just last week.
Yeah, I mean, that huge shot play against Denver, Surtain gets confused and there's a miscommunication. Curtis Samuel's wide open and he houses it after he makes the catch. They're going for a chunk play here. They're going to attack. And so again, the call is sound. The idea behind it is sound. It's just a missed execution play, like you said, whether it's on Kincaid, whether it's on Allen. I do think, and you spoke to it, like for me, it looks like Allen is trying to like place the ball. And usually when you do that, it can put you off a little bit. It just looks awkward and weird.
Yep.
It looks like he's trying to place it rather than just throwing the ball and kind of letting the ball do the work. It looks like he's almost forcing it into a specific spot, and he ends up kind of dirting it a little bit. And even, the throw, how he follows through and how he goes, maybe it's on Kincaid, maybe it's on Allen. Either way, to your point, the play design is there. The call is there. It was an execution piece that led it to not being successful. And if Allen makes that throw, that's what, a 15-plus yard gain, a nice little chunk play, changes the numbers a little bit, and I think maybe changes the perspective for some people on how they viewed the offense this game.
And keep in mind, this is still the beginning of the third quarter. First couple of drives we're looking at. They're like, you know what? We're going to come back to it because that play works, and that was just bad execution. Well, guess what? The Ravens have a different idea. They send a blitz, and you're going to see this a bunch. The Chiefs did this in the last matchup with the Bills, where the Bills got up to line of scrimmage. It was a little different formation. It was more of a 3-by-1, not a 4-by-1 here. But the running back was over here, and it was a tight split by this wide receiver. And so they sent McDuffie off the edge, and it was a big pressure. That's something to keep in mind when the Bills go to 3-by-1. The Chiefs love sending the guy off the edge, especially when the ball's on the
boundary,
short side of the field here. They're gonna cat blitz. They're gonna corner blitz that, especially if it's McDuffie. But the Bills came back to that play. But the Ravens, this is a play that worked out for them. The Bills don't have a hot route or sight adjustment. And honestly, if he had a little more time, Coleman's coming open here. But again, the pressure, the defense gets paid too. And so the play goes incomplete. But another play where, hey, you know what? Josh got rid of us 3rd and long. The play was there, but the Ravens won that play. It's going to happen in the playoffs.
Yeah, again, against a really good team that easily could have beaten the Bills, easily could have maybe beaten Kansas City earlier or this year if they met in the AFC Championship. Like, the Ravens are a good squad, and there were opportunities here. Yeah, you got the deep shot coming open. You got Coleman on that drag underneath and mesh. It's just that the pressure doesn't hold up. The Ravens gambled. They made a good play. Again, it's 3rd down, so I like Allen not trying to do too much and staying within himself and understanding kind of, and not to make this comparison because people do this so much and are dragging him so much, but not doing what Lamar did and not trying to do too much and trying to make something out of nothing when nothing is really there. And also, good job. Oh, yeah. Roquan getting through, just shedding his man, like just violent with how he gets through. We do not see that a lot from Ty Johnson. And that's not Ty Johnson. That was Ray Davis. No, it wasn't. It was Ty.
No, it was Ty.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's what I thought. I saw the white sleeve. Ty Johnson is a tremendous pass blocker, and that's a hell of a rep from Roquan. But also, again, the execution. Ty doesn't pick up his man. Wiggins comes clean off the edge, so good scheme, good individual play. Tip your cap to a good football team and good players making good football plays.
Right. And so now let's go to the 4th quarter late. This is, I think, 8 minutes left in the game. You saw that play earlier with 12 personnel, but it was Gilliam as the running back. The Bills came back to the very same play that you just saw twice. They come back to it late in the 4th quarter, 4 strong, top of the screen. But the tweak here is 13 personnel, 1 running back, James Cook, and 3 tight ends here, Knox, Kincaid, and Morris. And you see the tight formation, the condensed formation. And what do? They run the same play. And guess what happens? They get a completion. And so, again, this is the staff recognizing, you know what? Our game plan's not that bad. We're still on script. We're still on schedule. The plays are working. We just need better execution. They get very good execution. They get Mac Hollins wide open on the crosser, and he's able to convert a 1st down.
Yeah, layering and sequencing and all these pieces where we know that Brady likes to gather intel and gather data. And this is why, what's the old proverbial kind of ad is like, no play is ever a failure because every play is an opportunity for you to gather intel and gather data. And we got an incompletion earlier. Now, what do we have here? You have highlighted there a little 4 strong action. I like how the routes disperse here and the distribution. Crazy. Like, yeah, if you are the defense, look at how it's easy to understand why no one takes Mac Hollins because everybody's kind of almost stacked with one another. You're trying to figure out who's going where, and you've got multiple dudes that are X'd out, but essentially Wiggins is over the top on Kincaid with another man on Kincaid. Yep. Mac is wide open. Morris eventually comes open on that back spot, but you get that confusion. And we saw a ton not in this necessarily this way, a ton of this against Kansas City the first time around with different releases from the Bills, along with different motions and tempos and bunches. Yep. Using their coverage rules against them and making them have to figure out at the last minute, okay, who's going out, who's going in, who am I taking? We saw multiple reps where Kansas City was covering, one guy with 2 and someone was left wide open.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And I wanted to talk about and show you guys Kyle Hamilton's post-game presser and how important, the Bills' game plan and how they set the tone and the physicality. So listening to this presser.
It's the touch. Holding them to 3, I think they ran the same duo play like 10 plus times tonight. And that's honestly just not a good showing of what we can do as a defense. I feel like that's somewhat disrespectful. And for us to allow to do that, that's just out of character for us. So.
And he's
somewhat
saying that
disrespectful. And I love that. That's so awesome.
And I will say, I'll add the context. He was saying it was disrespectful because they couldn't stop it and they weren't playing physical, not necessarily because, they're hurting us. Like, stop running that. It's disrespectful. No, he was saying that they were taking it hard in the locker room, which you talked about, right? And because the Bills were running duo pretty well. And I just love, again, the play sequence and play calling on. And I use that clip because this formation looks like what's coming, Anthony. Duo. This is what they want to run downhill. They want to get those double teams, run downhill. It's 2nd and 5. Again,
it's also real quick. It's super similar to the touchdown. The Ray Davis touchdown was on duo, and it was pretty much the exact same alignment, just a little different from a player perspective. But this is how they run duo week in, week out. Yeah,
formationally, this is an alert. Duo is coming. The Bills ran duo 7 times for 41 yards. So Hamilton's not wrong. He's wrong as far as saying 10 times, but the point's made. And so on 2nd and 5, the Bills make it look like duo, but then they run this speed boot. And you can see here comes, they're all ready to gap out versus look where they're slanted. Look where the D line is slanted, the strength of the formation. They think duo's coming. And then on 2nd and 5, they run the speed boot and they're able to convert the first down. And this is a play, Anthony, that if you go back and look from the season, and most teams have this in their playbook, they run this on 3rd and short, not 2nd and 5. This play call was chef's kiss because it was set up for the entire game. And Joe Brady did it at a time where the defense wouldn't be expecting it.
Yeah, and it usually, if not always, comes with Ty Johnson in the backfield.
Jets game, he scored on it.
I was going to say the very first, I'm thinking that even
last
Jets
year,
game,
right?
Yeah, Brady's first game as OC, he like a 35, 40-yard touchdown on this. Yeah, because I remember you call it the speed boot. I call it a front side naked. Like, I never know what to call it. And like, just because of how it is, speed boot is super, and I always forget what you call it. I love this play, just in general, but especially with how it ties to it. Yeah, look at Malik Harrison, number 40, drop down, come into the box. Like, you see everything in front of you presenting like it's going to be duo. They do it all the time. And then Humphrey is caught inside. Look where Wiggins' eyes are. Look at our Darius Washington. Roquan kind of sees it and points a little bit. Roquan is awesome. He calls it out like immediately, like, look out. But they're just out leveraged at that point, and Ty Johnson gets to the flat right away. I love that layering. It goes back to, and we've seen pieces like this before, right? Like, because they'll also do that look, and then they'll motion usually Mac Hollins to the weak side, and they'll run weak side mid zone, which we've seen them do a ton. And then what did they do against Seattle? They sent Mac Hollins on that motion, and it was play action, but they made it look like weak side mid zone, like or mid zone weak, same thing. Like, they would attack with their tendencies, and if you are vulnerable to it in the game, they'll continue just spamming the hell out of it. But then Brady isn't afraid, really starting with that Seattle game, and I think going forward, to take those known run concepts and then building play action plays off of the same look, the same alignment, the personnel grouping, the tendency in terms of time. Like, oh, well, it's 2nd and this, they're probably not going to do that here. Here comes duo, keep it in 3rd and manageable. And then bang, they're flipping it on its head. Like, those little pieces matter so much. And Brady's been very adept at doing that all year.
Which is what excites me about the matchup with the Chiefs, because every team at this point has their base concepts. Every team has shown those base concepts on film. They've shown the little wrinkles and eye candy in different presentations of those plays. But then there's also that part of me that thinks that we haven't seen it all. And I think that's what this game's going to be fun for that on both sides of the ball. It's going to be frustrating at times because the Chiefs offense and how they're doing it, because they definitely have some wrinkles that we haven't seen, especially when you're talking some of the personnel they now have.
Yeah.
But I think the same can be said about Brady, because he's done such a great job this year of adding layers, adding different wrinkles, running the same plays from different personnel, like you saw in that Mac Hollins pass. 13 personnel when they ran it, at 11 personnel the entire game, or 12 personnel. So it's going to be fun, man. I'm excited about this matchup. But before we kind of give a quick look ahead, I know we want to talk about something else when it comes to the Chiefs game.
Yeah, we before we put a bow officially on this Ravens game and move on to a couple of things on the Chiefs, we wanted to pull up another graphic from our friends at BetUS. This one tying directly to the Chiefs. This one kind of hit me hard a little bit. I think they mentioned it last week during Chiefs Texans, but this graphic, again, presented by our friends at BetUS. This is a graphic of the most receiving yards in the playoffs in NFL history. Number one is Jerry Rice at 2,245, which is still nuts to think that he played in an era where like the pass wasn't, like if Jerry Rice played today, it just wild, like thinking about it. But Travis Kelce is number two at 2,020. And then the gap between him and Julian Edelman at 3 is even a bigger surprise.
Yeah.
But Edelman's third at 1,442. So almost a 600-yard difference between Kelce and then Edelman at third, and then Gronk being fourth. Of course, like Gronk and Edelman, how many playoff games they played. But we talk about Travis Kelce almost every time we talk Bills Chiefs, you have to. And just the level that he's produced year in and year out in the regular season, but in the postseason as well. Like these numbers really hit me, and obviously it plays into this game tremendously, but just what he's been able to do from a volume standpoint in terms of production, but efficiency pieces as well. Like anywhere you look, he's tremendous. And this stat is a huge testament to how many games he's played and how important he's been in those games.
And has he lost a step? Absolutely. But for most of his career, these numbers are more of a reflection of his football intelligence, his processing of coverages, his ability to find those voids in zone coverage. And so since week 15, again, through the divisional round, minus week 18, when they sat out everybody, he's got 34 targets, 24 receptions, 258 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And in those games, he did everything that, he's done his entire career, found those soft spots in the zones, was the outlet for Patrick Mahomes against when teams blitz him, which you shouldn't do often. When you're talking blitzing Patrick Mahomes, and he's very good still in the second play or outside of structure, the scramble drill, play. And he's so good with Mahomes, his improvisation, his ability to just get open and uncover. Anthony, like when teams blitz Patrick Mahomes, the targets that go to Travis Kelce since week 15 are converted into first downs 70% of the time.
Oh, so stupid.
So watch out when you do blitz. They're gonna throw a little bit of everything at Mahomes, but take away Kelce. If you go back and watch a film from the last matchup, guys like Terrell Bernard were huge in that game. We busted his chops here in the film room tonight about him guessing that crosser over routes coming for Mark Andrews and getting beat there, but coming back and making a play. He's going to do these type of things against Kelce when they're in zone coverage. Matt Milano is going to have to be aware of Travis Kelce in zone coverage. He's just so good at finding those soft spots in zone coverages.
And he's been doing it so long and so consistently, and his football IQ is just off the charts. He is at the point of his career where, like a pitcher, where he's not throwing 97, 98 anymore, but he can locate multiple pitches and he knows how to weave them in and out and throw from the same arm angle and slot in different counts. And I remember I saw a video in the offseason. I think it was from Tight End University. And he's up in front, kind of like in a little lecture hall, and he's breaking down tape, and he's talking about knowing coverages and teams' tendencies. And he gets very specific, and he's like, it's not just enough to know, this team likes to play cover 2. How do they like to play cover 2? Is it actually cover 2, or is it a Tampa 2? If it's Tampa, who is normally the pole runner? How do they respond versus a 3-by-1? How do they respond versus a 2-by-2? And he's talking about how you have to know all the intricacies and the ins and outs of every detail of every coverage. And you see it. It's the reason why people knock him all the time. It's why he can move it what seems like 25% of everyone else. And he's always open.
He really is, though. He's slow playing it.
Yeah, he looks so slow,
but
and he's always open.
But Anthony, I will say, I totally agree. He's like running 40% a lot of these plays. But now when you have the speed of Brown and the speed of Worthy to kind of lift the coverage, the timing of it works, man. It's so weird because it's like, okay, he's watching all the chess pieces expand. And then he's like, oh, look at that little soft spot at the marker. Oh, sit right there and get a first down. Like, he's just so good. And it's obviously, yes, Bernard's going to play a huge piece. Milano's going to play a huge piece. I do think this should be their priority because they move the ball. They're efficient when they have Kelsey involved. And will they get splash plays from some of the speed guys? Absolutely. But when it comes to the priority, I do think Kelsey has to be it when he's on the field. You got to know where he is at all times, because if there's pressure at all, if Mahomes, if there's good coverage on the back end and Mahomes has to extend the play, Kelsey's going to be the first guy he's going to look for. Yeah.
Who's he going to? Who does he find? It's usually Kelsey. A couple of their stats to go along with this. Travis Kelsey, 172 catches in the postseason. That's the most in postseason history. 9 games with 100 or more receiving yards in the postseason. That's also a postseason record. And then he has 20 receiving touchdowns, which is the second most for playoff receiving touchdowns ever. So just a very prolific career. Hopefully not as prolific this upcoming Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. Thank you very much again to our friends at BetUS for providing this graphic. Obviously, this segment brought to you by our friends at BetUS. If you are looking for a new sportsbook this football season, BetUS is the answer. They give the fastest payouts in the industry, a 150% bonus on your first deposit, and then a 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. They have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year. Live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business. They allow you to get 10% back on your net losses twice a year, and they also can give you your very own personal account manager. Go and check out BetUS for all of your sportsbook and betting needs.
Awesome stuff, man. Good. It's a great pivot. And the guys ask, some of the guys in there are saying, let's see here, Belichick would take away your number one weapon. Yeah, I mean, who's their number one weapon right now? Because since week 15, if you're looking at team target percentage, that's going to be Xavier Worthy. But how do you take him away? Are you going to man? Are you going to zone? What type of things are you doing to slow him down? I still think it's Travis Kelsey because, again, I think he's the heartbeat of that offense and
he's
moving
the
the ball
that stirs the drink.
And they're not an explosive offense, but they're an efficient offense. And the efficiency, in my opinion, starts with Travis Kelsey.
Yeah, and Chill Will says that Kelsey is the engine. Yeah. I completely agree. Everything starts with him from there, especially in the playoffs. Like high leverage moments are on third downs or the low red zone. They are looking for Kelsey. When Mahomes scrambles, like you said, he is looking for Kelsey. That is who he wants. That is who his primary guy is. And Carl says that Kelsey only had 2 catches for 8 yards in week 11. We talked about in the film room, the Bills made a concerted effort. Terrell Bernard especially. Yep. They are gunning for him.
Yeah. He's, again, Bernard was phenomenal that game. He was amazing in that game. And after watching Bernard's command and poise in the Broncos game, and then how in this game you heard, if you go, I think Van Noy was on Gerald McCoy's podcast. I saw a clip before he went live. One, KVN talked about how it was a conservative game plan and he'd never seen Josh Allen and the Bills offense play that way and how it worked. But then more importantly, he's like, I know their defense is small and everything, but that guy, Terrell Bernard's been one of the best linebackers in the league for the last few years, and no one talks about it. That's how much respect guys across the league, especially a guy like KVN, who's seen it all, done it all, played all these different types of positions, and is a leader for that Ravens defense. For him to talk up Bernard, he was huge in that game against the Chiefs. So I can't wait to see him when we're talking pre and post snap, the command, that communication, and again those plays against Travis Kelsey. He was huge against him,
and I can't wait to know, Kelsey knows that, Mahomes knows that, Andy Reid knows that. So like how are they trying to scheme against it this
Right.
time? Like how do the Bills answer? Like just the familiarity between these two teams playing in the regular season year after year, meeting in the playoffs, and then the players and the coaches that are at the center of it. There is so many fun aspects for this game in a multitude of ways. And I want to bring up this question really quick from Carl, because I think this is a cool way to look at it. Carl says, which is more important, a great game plan by Joe Brady or a great game plan by Bobby Babbage?
Good question. I think the Babbage game plan is more important because I like the flow and efficiency of the Bills offense, and they damn near score 25, 30 points a game. I think they can do that against this Chiefs defense, even with some of the guys that they have back. And I think it's more important when it comes to the defense because they have to be more strategic with their matchups because of their philosophy overall and because of some of the matchups they may see, whether it's speed or guys that are very good and adept at sitting versus zone, as we talked about with Kelsey. You have guys that can play above the rim like Hopkins. They have a diverse skill set when it comes to their weapons. And I don't think they'll need to necessarily devote a lot of resources to stop the run. I knock on wood. Hopefully they don't have to, but not in the same manner that they had to against the Ravens.
Oh, I'm very torn on this one. I love Spags and everything the defense does, and the Chiefs defense is so good. But I mean, you said most. I'm not going to piggyback too much. I'm going to say great game plan by Bobby Babbage because at the end of the day, you still have to stop Mahomes, and no one can seem to like stop Mahomes. Like that is the tried and true thing that carries them over and over again. So I will go with great game plan by Bobby Babbage because a great game plan to me entails that you slow down or kind of stop that offense. And if you can do that, given what the Bills have been, I think a meh game plan by the Bills offense still means like 23 points, something in there. And then if you pair a meh game plan offensively with a great game plan defensively, I feel like that's like 23-10, 23-13. And so
I mean, a meh game plan by the offense is what you saw against the Ravens, and look what they did. You know what I mean?
Like, and
to be fair, relative to the rest of the game plans this year, that was one of the meh game plans, and they still put up 27 points overall. Like,
so I'm saying mid-20s. Yeah, I'll take that. And then a great defensive game plan. Yeah, but you honestly, you can make the case either way. And that's another reason of why this game is so awesome, so highly anticipated by us, by Bills fans, Chiefs fans. I think the league, national media, anybody and everybody. Erik, any final thoughts for the folks here, whether it's on wrapping up that Ravens game, looking forward to this Kansas City game, or both pieces that tie into one another, whatever you want to speak on before we start to wrap here?
I'll just tease. I have some content dropping tomorrow with a lot of the offensive tendencies of the Chiefs, some little nuggets here and there that I picked up on, whether I was scouring the film or the stats. So I'll have that dropping for our insiders at the website cover1.football. So be looking out for that. There'll be some stats. There'll be some scouting summaries, on Worthy, Travis Kelce, the offense as a whole, some videos. I have a 9 or 10 minute video breakdown in that post on the website.
Their list of fears, favorite colors, everything on in every way, shape, or form that you need to know.
What flavor slushy they like. Like we get down. All right. This is how we work in the film.
Now I really want to see like Xavier Worthy, like snap share, route tree percentage run, blue slushy. And you're like, what? And like, that's his favorite slushy, the blue raspberry. Like, that's important.
We try to get that in depth when it comes to scouting these teams. So I hope you guys are insiders. If you're not, get to cover1.football, become an insider, get to our Discord server. You get, behind the scenes content. And so that'll be available tomorrow morning on the website.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. As we, again, start to move forward here in this week, I've had a hellacious week. I am behind on posting things from the Bills game. I'm diving into Chiefs tape tonight, which is later than what I normally do. Yeah. I'm exhausted. I've had a week and it's only Wednesday, but I am so excited for this upcoming weekend and for the Bills, the opportunity to once again slay the dragon. This is from a non-X's and O's, non-scheme and structure perspective, like we always are focused here. This is the way I want the Bills to go to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
If Bills can't beat Kansas City, last year obviously would have been awesome doing it in the Bills' house and then go to the AFC Championship, see what happens against Baltimore. I want to beat Kansas City in Kansas City. I want to
Yes.
go into the dragon's house and slay that stupid dragon in his own house. That is the way I want it to go down. I want a silent arrowhead as the Bills and that team get to raise the Lamar Hunt trophy in Lamar Hunt's house and know that they did it in front of everyone, the national spotlight, Allen, Mahomes, Bills, Chiefs, Reed, McDermott. I want all of that this way, not only to beat Kansas City, but doing it in their house. I just really hope it comes to fruition. And I am so tired of the Chiefs.
No, me too.
I
Me too.
hope the Bills can do it. But regardless of what happens for the Bills in this upcoming AFC Championship against the Chiefs, we have you covered next week, Tuesday, in the film room. We will be dropping the film room next Tuesday. Good or bad, win or lose, we will have you covered. We got to stop again because, Carl, you're fantastic. I appreciate the hell out of you again with another super chat. And Carl says, no question this time. Just donating to Cover One because you two are totally awesome.
Thank
you
you.
need to keep cranking out these videos for the next month. That's awesome, Carl. Thank you so
Carl.
much for that.
You're the best,
That's
dude.
sweet. Yeah, that's awesome, Carl. And you crushing in general. There was also a really good question too earlier with the great game plan by Brady or Babbage. So that warms my heart. That's awesome, Carl. Thank you so much. Yeah, we will have you covered in the film room next Tuesday. Again, Tuesday. I will be doing disguised coverage on Wednesday. We will be doing the film room on Tuesday. Again,
I'll be on the road for that one, so you're gonna have to stand. You're gonna have to hang on because there might be some issues, kind of like we had some in this show to begin with. But I'll be on the road, family vacation. Actually going when I land in Fort Lauderdale on Sunday. If you guys are from that area, the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, I'm gonna be at the Booze Garden, I think it's called, the Bills Backers Bar Club. They go all out there. So if you guys are in that area, I'll be there for the game Sunday. Pretty much a couple hours after I land.
Get up there, watch football with Erik, and you can ask him questions the entire time and annoy the hell out of him. Be like, what coverage was that? What play was that? Why did they not blitz? How come they didn't do that? What happened there? Yeah, so we'll be dropping that next week. And yeah, enjoy this week. It is not often that a team makes it to the Final Four and the championship round. This is something to still, I know we have expectations and some people have different ones than others, but this is something to be savored and cherished. I know we're long ways away from the drought years, but it's still an awesome week. It's an awesome time. Consume all the content you can nationally, or if you're looking for some more in-depth stuff, we have you covered here in the film room. We have you covered on the multitude of shows that we have on this network and within this brand. So anything and everything you want, Bills, check out everything we got here for you on Cover One, whether you're here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you are listening to this show on. If you enjoyed this episode, drop a like here on YouTube, rate and review and subscribe on whatever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. Turn on notifications for the Cover One Film Room playlist here on YouTube. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about how awesome the show is and the brand and the channel and all that stuff. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Get a drink, have some food, relax a little bit, and then come back at 9 o'clock for Greg and Aaron as they drop their show.
They drop. I think they're going tomorrow, actually.
Oh, they're going tomorrow?
Yeah, I think they switched to tomorrow. So heads up on that, guys.
I take it back. I'm an idiot. So they go tomorrow. So I guess relax for almost 24 hours. And then
go back and watch this episode. All right. Go back and watch this episode if you missed it. All right.
Thank you. Yeah. Go back and watch this guy's coverage that I did with JP Acosta last night. A bunch of detailed pieces for matchups and all that stuff. Or check out Joe DeRosa with Under Review or the Roundup show on Monday or the Air Raid show. Whatever your poison is, we have you covered here at Cover One. And as always, thank you very much to our behind the scenes man and producer, Chris Seth. Who without him, we would not be able to do the multitude of things that we do. Or if we did, it would be even more tiresome and grueling than it already is. So he does so much for us. Major shout out to him for all the great work that he does and everything he's provided for us this season. That'll do it for us here on this episode of the Film Room. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. If you live in Buffalo or Western New York, stay bundled. It is crazy cold outside.
Yeah, that's bad.
And stay indoors, stay warm, get ready, consume content, have fun. If you're going to Kansas City, stay safe, enjoy the game. Godspeed. We'll see you next Tuesday. And as always, go Bills.